Good morning, everybody. I'm almost done my morning walk, um, but while it's still quiet outside, I don't really I like making videos in the house because my aunt is loud as hell. So, um, yesterday when I meet it, I just wait till she went to the store. But it's pretty quiet out here, and hopefully the microphone doesn't pick up a whole bunch of sound from the road because this is like just outside of the school. But anyway, I like this tree. So, continuation from the channel message from yesterday, right? Um, I really didn't want to stop where I stopped at yesterday and like leave out a whole bunch of stuff that's, beneficial. So, um, I wanted to kind of put things into perspective. A lot of what I told you in the beginning, I just wanted to make it known that it's not channeled. I did know that. My family talked about, her death for quite some time. I mean, from the time that I was younger. And also, yeah, I always knew that. And they also said that she cursed us as a family for what happened to her at the time of her death, that we were cursed by her and that we were cursed to like poverty and I don't know, other bad things. But I don't, not to say I don't believe it, but I also believe in like self fulfilling prophecies. Like, you know, if you believe that you're cursed, then you're going to live under that curse. If you don't believe it, then you're not going to live under it. Um, and so on and so on. I don't need a lot of examples for that. I feel like people who believe that they're cursed, they just subdue, submit to that ideology. And I don't, and I never did. I never believed that it was for me. If my mom and my aunts and all of them, if they want to believe that, that's up to them. Um, but it's not, it's not for me to believe that I've been cursed by anybody. But anyway, um, what she did tell me is that she was born in 1886 and her mother was born in 1862. Yeah, 1862. Um, and she said that when she was a little girl, that's when things started to change. That's when trade was stopping and all that kind of stuff. So the reason why she's able to tell me so much is because the knowledge was passed on to her before things changed. She was telling me that there's a lot of food here that isn't native here, and that's what does damage to us on a cellular level. And that, how they like kind of try to say that black people are predisposed to high blood pressure and predisposed to, um, what is it, diabetes. Some people are also predisposed to high cholesterol. She was saying that if we actually followed a diet the way that um, we did before the Europeans came and tried to take control of everything, that we wouldn't be as sick, and that yes, we did eat salt. They traded for salt, so we had salt, but it was just seasoning, not like people crave salt like they do these days, and the way people eat sugar and salt all the time together, and fatty foods they didn't really fry a whole lot. Um, she also told me that the women kept their hair braided, not like now where or excuse me, not it didn't start now. It started a long time ago, like in the maybe the 30s, the 40s, where people started pressing their hair and wanting to appear more European. It wasn't a requirement, and people just started doing it to look like them because that's what they think is right. And um, the ways of the European is so ingrained inside of us that we don't see it. It's to the point where I hope a bug isn't crawling on my hair or something. um, it's so ingrained into us that it becomes part of our way of thinking, and that's the problem. That's the reason why she was saying that's the reason why so many people can't connect to their ancestors, because you don't realize that your blood connects you. Your blood connects you, and you can always talk to them. But we had this ideology that if it's not God, if it didn't happen in church, if somebody's not prophesying, if, I don't know, um, lightning and thunder didn't fall from the sky, that your ancestors aren't talking to you. And she's laughing. She's like, no, it's not like that. It's simple. It's a quiet voice. That's what they were taught when they were their age. But people began to fear, quote unquote, God. People began to fear God. People began to fear the devil. And what all of that meant, even though it was made up. You know what I mean? Even though it was made up and it wasn't real, people became more fearful of the afterlife. And in indigenous culture, she said to me, if you search any indigenous culture, there is no such thing as a punishment. And there's also no such thing as a reward. It's about the soul. It's about what you come here to learn. It's always been about that. All indigenous cultures know that. Everybody knows that you have a role. And she says that we keep trying to that there's confusion in us uniting because of the fact that we can't come together. If we can't come back to our original mind, we're never going to um, make sense of things and see all the different ways that we've gone astray. And she said that um, there's nothing but a bunch of confusion, especially when you start adding religion into things, that there's nothing but a bunch of confusion going on. And people want to worry about whether they're Christian. Fear is the biggest thing. Um, and letting go of that fear and understanding that you are a soul and a spirit, and God has nothing to do with that. Satan has nothing to do with it. You're a person that's come here for a purpose. And modern day, we forget about our purpose and you just go and be a robot. And she said that we're more slaves now because we want to live a certain lifestyle. We feel like we should have large homes and large cars and, I don't know, tons of rich food. We feel like we should have so many possessions and belongings and stuff like that. And we're never satisfied, just like Europeans. That's where, she said, as I said in the video yesterday, that they weren't always like that, that certain ones came over with this sort of hunger, with this warlike mentality, like they have to conquer and divide, or other way around, divide and conquer. And that those same divide and conquer tactics have worked with us until now. And so you have people who, although we're, leaving the age of Pisces and going into the age of Aquarius, which is the age of knowledge, and all of the deceit of the age of Pisces is falling off from us, although we're going into this time, there's so much confusion because people want to grapple with whether or not you're African, or people want to grapple with whether or not we're Aboriginals, or whether we're Moors, or whether we're, even worse, people throw religion into it as if religion has anything to do with race when it doesn't. Religion started with war, and therefore there is no peace in it. And it's not a way of life for any indigenous being. As she said to me, it's not a way of life. It's not. You can take the principles of it and use it as you will, and people don't know how to do that. Or at least we don't, as a people, we don't know how to do that. And whereas you look at other cultures like Asians and well, Indians are also Asian, technically. And yeah, pretty much them. Those of us with higher melanin, it's like we have a sensitivity, some sort of ability to be brainwashed, to be taken over. And unfortunately, fear rules most of us. Even if we were going to unite with, so-called Africans or whatever, even if we were going to unite with them, everybody's living under such a fear of what would happen if, or saying, oh, there's no point in redoing a Black Wall Street, or there's no point in us buying land, there's no point in us owning homes, there's no point in this, there's no point in that, because people have this there's no point mentality, that we don't get anywhere when there is a point in owning your own land and doing for yourself. You know what I mean? So she said because of that confusion, that identity, or lack of identity for us rather, because she said you have to be able you know, to use your common sense and realize, why are they classifying you something different every 10 to 20 years? First you're, you know, you're colored, and then you're Negro, then you're black, then you're Afro-American, then you are, what did they go back to? Black, I think. And now you're African American. And she said the crazy thing about that is, like, okay, now there are actual African immigrants here who are the true, you know what I mean, definition of African American, because they're citizens of, most of the time, citizens of two different continents. And so, what the hell, like, she said, if we weren't so concerned about our identity and more or less concerned about our community, we'd get somewhere. Um, if we stop trying to compete with one another and understand that we're brothers and sisters, period. And like she said yesterday, there is no pure blood. There's, if you want to identify yourself as a African, it's fine, because okay, that's part of your lineage. If you want to identify yourself as an Aboriginal, that's fine too. It's part of your lineage. Same thing if you want to identify yourself as Asian. If you want to identify yourself as white, it's all part of your lineage. There is no pure um, there is no pure anything. But don't, what she's saying is, stop crying out to us about stupid stuff. um, as talking about the ancestors in a whole, about how people um, say, oh, the ancestors are coming back, the ancestors are coming back. And like I said it before in another video, um, damn, that video was like maybe 3 years ago, about abortion and how you're blocking entry to them. You're blocked. They can't come back if you don't let them come back. Do you think they're just gonna come down from the sky? That Jesus shit ain't real. That, you know what I mean? That there's a resurrection and it's gonna come from the sky. No, no. They said it's not like that. They need to be born. They need to be reborn in order to come back and make things different. And you've got to let go of the way that you are raising your children. It's not the right way, they're saying. The heavy methods of discipline, the hitting, the screaming, the yelling, the negligence. The negligence is the worst. And she said people are flat out just not teaching their children anything anymore, anything about themselves. And she said that hypersexuality is a major problem amongst us, that indigenous people did not have that problem. They knew that sex is for procreation, and that we, because it creates certain, what do you call it, like neurotoxins or chemicals in the brain of this feeling good. Same thing with alcohol, same thing with drugs. Those people studied those things before they were given to us, and before they began to promote sexuality as a big thing in this country, and at the same time shun it because of religion. She said that that's something that takes us down, because obviously there's nothing but confusion and disorder when you have people who have 6 and 7, some people are worse, baby moms or baby dads, and some people don't even know who the fathers are. She said that procreation wasn't like that for them. Not that everything was super monogamous or anything, but that it's just hypersexuality to begin with. The people think that you need to have sex all the time, whereas they did things on a moon cycle. As a woman, you know, herself has a cycle. So they did things on a moon cycle, the way that they had sex, even for pleasure, but it was for creation for the most part. Not necessarily creation of a baby, but creation of bringing things into need. It was a certain act, what we would call ritual, you know. A ritual will continue to bring prosperity and everything to your people. But I don't know if y'all ever seen that movie, come on, what is the movie called? With the gullah, with the Geechee. Damn it. I can't think of what it's called right now. I think, oh, wait. Daughters of the Dust. Daughters of the Dust. If you saw that movie where they were living off that island in South Carolina, I think it was South Carolina, the Geechee Island, and they knew that they had come from Nigeria, or was in the modern day Nigeria. They knew that they had come from there, and that they were living off on that island and living in complete freedom, and the people wanted, there's a division because the older people wanted to stay and preserve the culture, and the other people didn't. They thought that it was hogwash, you know, the ritualistic way of living, and living in tune with the earth. They thought that, you know, that it wasn't cool, and that white people were living a better life. And so they wanted to join in on the mainland. And that's what happened to us. Joining in on the mainland and the main society, the main culture, that's what took away our identity. And so we're forever going to grapple with it if we don't return to a natural way of being. We're forever going to grapple with, oh, should I be eating this? Should I be listening to this? Should, you know, I can't even, should I even be wearing this? So on and so on. Like she said, so many of us are so far gone that there is no saving us. And it's sad to think about, but it's necessary. And she said the cleansing, I don't know if you follow my channel or whatever. I said it before in another video where I was talking about the Anunnaki and them coming and judging us as human beings, and not in the way that we expect judgment to happen. She's saying that it's already happening. That's why you see an increase in a rise in the death, because the Earth's vibration has to rise. And as the Earth's vibration rises, so those of us that are in the know, we have to be more in tune with what the Earth is saying and do as she says. Because if she brought something to me with another ancestor talking about the movie 2012, and you know how they were like playing that movie up because the Mayans said that the world would end in 2012. Really, it was more like the end of a certain age, but she was saying that the destruction, where they were saying that the earth shifted, that's what happened years and years ago. If you want to know how we became, if you remember in the movie, everything shifted. So what was like the South Pole was like what in like Wisconsin or something like that, and the North Pole was like in India, and you know, all of these major tsunamis just pushing the earth, and how they ended up landing in Africa on the highest mountain there for safety after a certain amount of time. She was saying that disasters like that they're coming, and for those of us that are paying attention, for those of us that are in the know and aware, that we need to really keep our mind on that and keep our ears open and learn to connect with them and learn to listen well, because it's not something that like you need to what did she say? It's not something like you need to, oh, the bluebird. She said you don't need to chant, you don't need to play cymbals, you don't need to I mean, in ritual ceremony, people used to play drums and stuff to hear from the ancestors to welcome them in. That's cool and dandy, but we don't know how to listen on a regular, everyday basis and know that spirit is part of us and we're part of spirit. Everybody's so spooked out about it that we're not getting anywhere. And you have so many people that are so warlike, just like a European. They don't realize they're like that. We're not. It's not that we don't know how to fight. We know how to fight, but you have to have the wisdom to know what battles to fight. And people think that, oh, it's going to be a race war and all kinds of bullcrap like that. And they're like, no, Mother Nature and the other species that are coming onto the planet now, that is something far worse than what we can imagine. Imagine a species greater and larger than yourself. And she said that if we pay attention, that people are dying, and they're dying quickly, and that because of all the death that's happening, the land will be transferred back to us, back into the hands of the Aboriginal, and the world will be ruled in a upright manner, not in an unjust way, and more of a peaceful way. But for that to happen, disasters have to come, whether they're man-made or whether they're natural. It has to come, and we have to begin to match the vibration of the rest of the solar system, and the Earth is the only one living like this. Yeah, the Earth, the human species and quote-unquote mankind species, we're the only ones living that way, living this way in a low vibrational manner, excuse me. And she said we have to learn to hear the Earth to know when to act, to learn wisdom. And we can't be all warlike and militant and think that we're accomplishing something. You can't be like, they're like sitting back laughing about all the people who are um, saying that they would kill white people, or that they would go to war for their people and all this other kind of stuff, because preservation. And she's like, the war's already been raged on us and we can't seem to wake up from it. And she's like, your guns are useless if they're going to put you in jail. Sorry, I gotta translate at the same time as listening. But she's like, your guns are useless if 30-40% of you are in jail. Everybody knows that jails aren't populated by whites, they're populated by blacks and Hispanics, right? As the statistics say, 60% or some shit like that, like it's majority us. And with us being in jail, it's genocide. It's a form of genocide, because we can't reproduce. If we can't reproduce, we can't outnumber them. If we can't outnumber them, we can't run things. And so with the complication of abortion, with the complication of jail as genocide, drugs as genocide, alcohol is genocide, and drugs are a huge problem now. And then even worse, she said the music is genocide, and autotune is the devil. She said autotune is the devil because it's low vibrational. It's not even a natural music. It's not coming from an instrument. I'm laughing because it's funny, but it's not funny at the same time. Sorry. But just the sound of that music is not a natural thing, and that it's low vibrational. And yes, people do make higher vibrational music with it, but most of the time they don't, and people are playing that into your subconscious. And compared to when we were indigenous, people did not play those things into our subconscious. We listened to the sounds of nature, as you might be able to hear in the background, the birds and the different nature sounds, and the water. And she's talking about the water because the land that we owned prior to the shit, I don't know what that was, but she said the land that we owned, which was the Chesapeake, right on the Chesapeake Bay, right where the water is, not the large one, the 18-mile one, but the other side, like you're going over towards Baltimore. That land is called Kent Island now, and that they lived there for years and years and years. And she said that we had this thing where we feel like, she said, stay in the silence. And we had this thing where, I'm going to use my aunt as an example because I don't live that way, so I really notice it when other people live that way. And when she wakes up in the morning, she turns on the TV. And then she pulls out her phone and she watches, like, people's morning Facebooks live. All of this noise, all of this background chatter. And she said, if y'all would just learn to stay in the silence, fine if you got to go slave and work at a job for 8 hours a day and not contribute to your actual purpose in life and not contribute to your actual community, but y'all just fill up the empty space where we could be guiding you out of that lifestyle and into what is real wealth. She said, when we could be guiding you into these things, you filled the space up and you can't hear us. You can't hear us over the music. You can't hear us over the television. You can't hear us if you're distracted with your cell phone. And she's like, but this video is for people who do want to connect. You have to understand to connect that in order to connect, you have to disconnect. Damn, this video is long. I couldn't really see because the sun is in my eyes a little bit. I thought it was going to rain, but now it was just like a couple of drops when I was started out walking, and now the sky cleared up. So this sun is just going to get hotter. And North Carolina is hot, let me tell you. But expect more messages like this to me because she is really compliant, like really sharing information. The more I ask, the more she says or goes on about, because we have to excuse me, we have to return to our old ways and stop thinking that it was Iranians. It was a planned deceit. It was what's the word for it? Planned deception. Like, it's not like, oh, white people said, here, we got guns, y'all do this work, as people keep acting like that's how it was. No, you've been taken far from what you were originally by distractions, by technology, by psychology. More importantly, the psychology part, the idea that you think that you have to go to school, or that you have to have a job and you have to work till a certain age till you retire, and et cetera, because we don't think outside of the box. We can't see our ancestors. That's what she's saying. Some people, their mind are like those little boxes. She said, when she was a little girl, she had the Russian dolls, and the Russian dolls were these wooden things, painted. And when you open it, there was another doll inside, and another doll inside, and another doll inside, till it was like 10 of them. And she said that black people today are like that. It's like, from the time that you're a baby, from the time that you're not even fed your mother's milk, you're not on a proper eating schedule, sleeping schedule, et cetera, in the way that things were done in indigenous time. You're separated from the mother and sent to be with a stranger and things like that. And she's like, this is you starting from that tiny doll and being encased and being encased and being encased into the next doll and the next doll and the next doll. And she's like, if people start breaking free, it's like I heard a bike. But she said, if people start breaking free and pulling themselves out of them encasements and get down to who we really are and start really fulfilling your purpose, really understanding that ancient and indigenous communities were about everybody playing their role, and there was nothing wrong with that, and that's what kept us safe. It kept us safe, and it kept us happy, and it kept us peaceful. And for all of us that have learned the ways of the European to be militant and warlike and angry, it's not your natural way. Protection is your natural way, not senseless war, not senseless bloodshed. Um, I gotta go to the bathroom. So I'm gonna end this for now, and I don't know, I might come out and do it again tomorrow, because it seems pretty quiet out here, and hopefully if the video didn't pick up a whole lot of sound from cars passing by, then I'll make this a good filming spot for the summer. Alright, y'all have a good day.